All right, let's see if this is working. It takes a second for it to get over to my other screen. But hello, how's it going? We're going to be starting really, really soon. I'm just making sure this is actually working. We're starting early, if anyone was curious. Oh, it's working. Great. It's really dark. Wait, let me, all right, give me a second. I have myself talking on this computer. All right, perfect. We're good to go now. Hey, everybody. Starting a little early just because I want to. There's no other reason. Because we got a lot of stuff to cover. I know we have a lot of questions coming in already. But I accidentally just refreshed my thing, so I didn't catch any of those questions. So if you want to ask a question, that would be great. Go ahead and do that. I'll start looking at them soon. I got two computers here. I think I'm set. I think we're good. I think we'll get started. But hey, everybody, welcome to September's live stream. I do this monthly. I do this for you guys because people have questions, and I get just hundreds of questions every single day from LinkedIn and Twitter, Instagram, comments on YouTube. I have a daily schedule that I block out in order to answer those. And now my wife is texting me. Oh, she said she's sad to miss my live stream. Oh, that's okay, baby. I love you. Thanks for the support. But I have blocked off time to do that, but I can't get to everyone's questions. And so this is kind of my time where I can do this live, where I can start, or I can answer some questions and hopefully help you guys out. There's already a ton of questions rolling in, which is fantastic. Hey, everybody. I see you guys. We got Ripper, Muhammad, Anbumani, Monica, Anwar. Hey, everybody. Arushi M, how do you learn about ETL? That's a great question. I'll get to that in a little bit. And then a bunch of other people. Ayush, Rami. What's going on, everybody? Jasper. You guys are here. We're doing this thing. So literally, if you've watched any of my other live streams, this monthly live stream is just this, where I answer questions. If you watch my, when I hit 500,000 subscribers or 250, when I hit milestones, I'll play guitar and do funny accents, and it's more of a entertainment. And then I do giveaways and stuff. That's more entertainment than what we're doing today. This is supposed to be more constructive. I also do have a granola bar here and some water. So if you see me eating, it's just because I'm low on sugar and I'm starting to crash. So let's get started, because I'm just going to go as long as I can go. I usually can make it an hour and a half. So probably a little after, because it's 9:45 my time in the morning. So hopefully I can get to 11:15. I think that'd be pretty good. I think that'd be all right. I hope the audio sounds better. I have this overhead mic up here, and then I have this new mic right here. It's just supposed to sound better. So that's why I got it. It doesn't look better because now it's in the shot. And I'm not good with mics and all that stuff. This one's out of the shot, but I think this one's better quality. That's what I care about. I care about quality. So with that being said, now that we've introduced the live stream, let's start answering some questions. Monica was from Atlanta, Georgia. I was just there with my wife. We saw John Mayer in concert. So yeah, love Atlanta. Arushi M said, how do you learn about ETL? Well, ETL is a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of what the actual overall, what data analysts do in essence. ETL is extract, transform, load. At my old company, we used to do ELT, extract, we'd load it, and then we'd transform it, and we'd keep those raw tables. Now, how do you learn about it? I learned hands-on by far. I just, in my job, had to learn it for what I was doing with my work. But if I was doing this independently, I wasn't doing anything else, I would try to set up some type of environment, right? So I have data in an Excel spreadsheet, and this happens all the time as a real world use case, but I have some data set in Excel. I want to create a process that extracts that data into a MySQL database, into a Postgres database, into a Python data frame, whatever it is. Then you transform it, and then you load it into wherever you need it. So whether that's Tableau, Power BI, could stay in Python, wherever you need that. you can practice doing those things. Now, it gets crazy complicated. That is like the easiest version of it. Then you'll have different data sources. You need to merge these data sources in the database, and you have to clean the data. And there's a lot of other things. But that's what I would do. I would start small. And then if you actually get a job doing that, you're going to learn really fast. It's pretty complicated. It's one of the more complicated processes that data analysts work on, because it's, you work a lot with database developers, data engineers on that stuff. But really interesting. Let's see. I'm going to keep going down the questions. Jesper says, I said Jasper. It was Jesper. Sorry, Jesper. Jesper Jensen said, I have a question regarding data cleaning. All those fields that has wrong or zero value, what do you replace them with or delete them? That's super dependent on the data set, because I've done every variation that you could imagine. If you absolutely know you don't need the data and it's taking up a lot of space, you have like 10 million rows, and you don't want to save that in your database because it's going to cost money to save it, then you can just delete it, and that's perfectly fine. Or what you can do is, if you can populate that in some way and it's useful to you, you can try to populate it. Populating data in and of itself is an art form. You have to know how, why, when to populate, all those questions. And so populating data is it can be extremely useful, and it could also be really bad if you don't know how to do it. So yeah, replacing or deleting is totally fine. It's very dependent on I can't tell you with the information you've given me on what to do, because I've done every variation. But yeah, those are two very real options for null or blank data. Ooh. Malvika said, Alex, I've graduated from Career Foundry Data Analytics program and have applied to more than 80 companies and only gotten rejection emails. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know a little bit about Career Foundry because I've kind of partnered with them just a little bit. If you're not getting a job, work with their people and see if you can get a refund if you don't get a job. Because that's why I like them, is because if you can't get a job, you get a full refund. It's not that bad. But if you're getting rejection emails, they have like people who help with that stuff. It could be where you're applying. It could be your resume. If you aren't even getting interviews, it's usually a resume issue or how you're applying for jobs. Sally said, hi from the UK. Thanks for your videos on Tableau. You're welcome. Thanks for watching them. I hope they're really useful. Let's see. Aaron said, hi, my motivational data coach. Hey, how's it going? I've been trying to get into like the, not trying to get into it. I just like being like a really positive person. So I like encouraging people and like sharing my story about like how I became a data analyst. And a lot of people have been resonating with that because they're like where I was when I first started out, which is like, I was in a very not a great job. I didn't like my boss. I was making no money. And I kind of pulled myself up from my bootstraps with the help of my wife, of course, and was able to switch careers. And so a lot of people are in that exact same place. And so I try to, bring some encouragement to LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube and whatnot. Ripper, the ghost, cool name, said, can I get an entry-level data analyst job with knowledge of Power BI, SQL, and Excel? Yes. Now, here's why I say yes and why some people might disagree. A lot of people think you need every skill to become a data analyst. And I even teach a lot of these, all those things I teach, and I go beyond that on my channel. And you don't have to know all of them, but let's say you know SQL, I'm going to count them, I'm just making sure. SQL, Excel, Python, Power BI, Tableau. You can keep going. So you could do Azure, Looker, Google Sheets. There's a bunch of other skills. Let's say you know 8 skills, right? You know every single one of those really well. Well, on your resume, you're going to have all of those. And so when you apply to a bunch of jobs, the majority of those jobs are going to have one or many of those skills. So you're setting yourself up really well for the job hunt. Now, some of these jobs, let's say that was 100% of the jobs have at least one of those in there. Now, you only know 3 of those skills. So now you're only most likely going to be eligible for, let's say, 40% of those jobs. So now you've really limited yourself. So the less skills you know, the less you're probably applicable for in their candidate pool. So if you just know those, though, you're still a good candidate for 40% of those jobs. So it just limits you a little bit. But here's what I will say is I've hired for jobs that I just needed someone to know ServiceNow. I was working in IT. I was an analytics manager. I was like, I just need someone who knows ServiceNow, which is another tool. And if somebody knew it, everything else is trainable. So I just needed them to know that one tool. That's very specific as a specific use case, but a lot of jobs out there are like that. We really need someone who knows Power BI. And we can train them on all of our other proprietary stuff that isn't out there, just for the general public. It's a proprietary tool that we built or we use. My answer to that is absolutely you can. It's just a little bit tougher to find. And I personally would just try to work with a recruiter and say, hey, here are the skills I'm really good at. What are your clients looking for? And they're like, oh, well, we use Tableau. We don't use Power BI. And you're like, well, I can learn Tableau really quick, or I know Tableau. And you can try to work with them. So yes, you absolutely can get a data analyst job with just those skills. It's just a little bit more narrow. It's a little bit tougher to find. And Ayush asked a very similar question. Learning Python, AWS, MySQL, Tableau, Excel is all enough to become a good data analyst? Absolutely. That's plenty. Most companies, and here's the perception that a lot of people get when they try to become data analysts. That's not my wife. That's Chess. I'm gonna keep it on in case my wife texts me. I try to teach people this on my channel as well, but it is hard to talk to really make people understand it, because if they don't have experience, is that you can learn every single skill, and that could take you a lot longer. You could learn just a few skills and get really good at them, take you the same amount of time. There's 100 different paths to what you want to do, what skills you want to learn. You don't need to know everything. And that's what a lot of people make the mistake of. They're like, I need to know every single skill. So you just named a lot. Python, AWS, MySQL, Tableau, Excel. Just on your own, trying to learn all of those things is going to be tough. AWS alone is very complex, very complicated. There's so many things you can do in it. I feel like I used it for many years. I feel like I still have just scratched the surface of what I can do with it. And so, don't get too bogged down with learning every single skill. It really is about learning something well and then finding a job that wants to utilize that skill. That's what I found in my career too. I really specialized in SQL for many years. The first 3 years of my career, I was like, man, I'm really good at SQL. I'm like really good at SQL. Let me just see if there's other SQL jobs. And there were people that were just like, if you know SQL really well, that's all we care about. We'll teach you all these other skills. And so, just some feedback. Let's keep going. Oh boy. If you know me, this happens all the time, goes down. Huang Tuan Duan, which is a sweet name. If I pronounce that correctly, I'm impressed with myself. That's a sweet name. Says SQL Server or Synapse for data warehousing. Data warehousing is made specifically for analytics. Synapse is great. There's lots and lots and lots of tools out there, but if I was going to choose one, probably Synapse. But I'm more familiar. I've used SQL Server longer. And unless you're working with like really big data and you're trying to save money with like big data, and I'm talking, hundreds of millions, billions of rows, you don't really need anything else. You can store your data in a lot of places at small companies, and it's going to be cheap. Whether you store it in something like a data lake and you know how to model your data, or you're storing it in like a hot storage versus a cold storage, depending on if you need it. That's a really advanced data architecture. Data warehousing is meant for analytics, but you can do analytics with anything that stores data. So unless you're working with big data, that's all I'm trying to say. Unless you're working with big data, you don't need to use something like data warehousing. That's for, in my opinion, and every company is different, but in my opinion, you don't need to start using data warehousing until you have a pretty advanced or a ton of data, and you have an advanced team that knows what they're doing and how to maximize the cost effectiveness and use case for that data warehouse. Otherwise, you're just wasting money. Let's see. Ayman Mohammed. This is a great question. I get this one a lot. I'm 44 years old. Without any data analyst background, can I start? My general advice to people like this, and you kind of just gave your age. My general advice to people like this is if you have any transferable skills or domain knowledge in any other domain, then it could be relevant. For example, I've worked with a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, nurse practitioners, who used to work in the field, but then moved over to the data side because they had an in-depth knowledge of how the healthcare industry worked. And then they moved over to data, and they were able to really, really, really do well. So they they knew it so in depth. So then when they transferred that over, they learned some data skills and they transferred that domain knowledge over. They were making a ton of money. And I worked with a lot of them. I mean, I've worked with probably 20 to 30 people who did that exact same thing, not just in healthcare, but in IT as well. So they were working in like the IT side of things, and they moved over to data IT, which is like now we're helping these IT teams develop dashboards and processes and procedures, but on the data side. So if you can utilize previous domain knowledge, that's gold. If you're starting from absolute scratch, say you literally didn't do anything for the past 20 some years, you just sat on your couch, did absolutely nothing. Could you do it? You'd have to work really hard. Because domain knowledge, when you get older, there is an expectation that you know more, and your value is derived off of that domain knowledge, not always your technical skills. Like me right now, my technical skills are really good, but when I get hired, because I own a consulting business, when I get hired, they're really wanting me for my domain knowledge, for my experience, for what I bring to the table rather than just technical skills. But you need technical skills to start. You can't just start with nothing. So that's my general thoughts and advice on that. Let's see. Soliana Solomon, I have a question. How do you think about taking an unpaid internship to land a job? If you can afford it, go for it. I am, in this economy, if I'm being honest, in this economy, I don't think you should be doing anything unpaid. Most people can't afford to do nothing. I could not afford to take an unpaid internship at this point in my life. Excuse me. So if you can afford it, maybe you live with your parents or a friend or something, sure. But you need to make it clear, like, hey, I'm taking this unpaid internship with the expectation that I want to work here because I really like your company. I want to work here. So I'm willing to do this, but I want, if I hit my marks, I want a job here. That would be something I would do. And I'm more of I've become, in my career, I've become a lot more straightforward with people because I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. Here are my expectations. Here's what I want. And here's what you're going to get for that. So, hey, you're going to get free labor, free work, but that expectation comes with, from my side, that I'm going to get a job here in 3 months. Because goodness gracious, it's expensive to live these days. It just is. It's crazy. Oh, this is a C Walkie. This is like a testimonial, I guess. Yay, caught your live stream. Started learning SQL and Python in 2021 to learn how to be a data analyst, and your videos helped me a lot, so thank you. And I just got my first data analyst job. Congratulations, 2021, 2 years ago. But hey, you did it. That is fantastic. Great job. Let's keep going. Carlos says, hi, Alex. Cheers from Brazil. Hey, from the United States. What's going on? I'm trying to get to these questions. Got a lot of questions coming in. Matthew, quit doing that, man. You're buying me my Wendy's 5 for 5 today. I probably won't eat it today. I'll eat it tomorrow. But Matthew said, hey, Alex, can you describe an architecture for both real-time dashboards, but also historical analytics? Currently eyeballing Fabric for our company. And Matthew and I, we go way back. So I know we've chatted about this a little bit. I haven't dived into Fabric myself. So real-time dashboards are a little bit tricky. And you're also trying to do historical analytics. So when you're trying to like stream data, that usually involves something like AWS or Azure, some type of cloud compute, right? Because you're getting a live stream of data. And there aren't a ton of use cases for it. I mean, it sounds like you need it. But if you're looking at Fabric, that could be the way to go. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I know we used one I used one like 4 years ago. It was in Azure. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. Message me on LinkedIn and then just remind me to look into this for you, because I know it. I just can't. Sometimes when I'm like live, I can't think of things off the top of my head. But just shoot me a message on LinkedIn and I'll get back to you on that one. But Fabric could be really good. I've been looking into Fabric more ever since they came out with some of their announcements, which look really good. So you might be educating me on this one. So sorry to waste that 5 for 5. If you're not from the US, Wendy's is like a restaurant that has a 5 for 5 deal where you get a burger, fries, and a drink and chicken nuggets for $5. And I love it. I've been eating it since I was broke. I had no money and I still eat it today. It's like a comfort food for me. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, sorry, Matthew. Just shoot me a message. I'll give you a better answer. Let's see. Hussein Mahfoud said, how Power BI Copilot will change the data analysis role and when is it going to be released? Great question. Actually, this is a bigger topic that I've been diving really deep into is Copilot just for Windows. Now, if you don't know what Copilot is, Windows is coming out with something called Copilot, and it's going to be across all of their systems. It's going to be for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Power BI, just every product that you can imagine. They're going to be implementing their AI essentially. Now, I've seen a ton of demos and I've seen a ton of people's reviews. I haven't been able to get my hands on it because I'm not cool enough. But from everything that I've seen, it and all the feedback that I've seen from people who are working on it and using it and getting beta testing it, it's very lackluster. It's actually a lot worse than a lot of people are saying. And that's what's actually really concerning me right now, is that it hasn't been super impressive, and I haven't seen many positive reviews of people who have hands-on experience with it. Now, once I get hands-on experience, I'm going to be doing reviews so you guys can see exactly what I think. I'll test it out with a bunch of different stuff. That's something that I'm really looking forward to because I see that I see that as part of the future. Now, if it gets really good, let's say, because what people have been saying about Copilot, especially in Excel, is like it just doesn't select the right values. It doesn't do the formula correctly. It actually causes more mistakes than it helps. And when you try to like, the way it is integrated with Excel is you like do it and you're like, okay, put it onto this page. It like doesn't work right. And there's just a lot of bugs with it. Now that's current version. It's like beta version. Now, let's say in a year, it's working really well. How's this looking? Now, I imagine this is going to be something that you use quite a bit, although not for everything. It's for, and you'll probably be talking to it in the future too, is what I imagine, instead of writing everything out, right? All that multimodal stuff that's been coming out. Now, how will this change data analysis? With actually writing code, with building dashboards, which is definitely a part of the job, right? You have to know how to do those things. It's going to speed it up. Everything that I've seen and I've used in the past year has just been like, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. It is helpful at times. But I know it's not always going to get it right. There is that expectation that it's supposed to be right every time. It's just not going to be. So you'll still need to know the skills. You have to know these tools. Now, in terms of how a data analyst does their work, actually writing the code and building the stuff is probably like 40% of the job. There's still 50, 60% of the job that does not involve those things. Talking with people, understanding, reviewing data architecture, understanding how pieces fit together, understanding the business use case, talking with stakeholders. I mean, all those things it's not going to help with any of that. And it won't for a long, long, long time. Technically speaking, just on the technical skills, it'll speed it up. That's what it's going to do. You still are going to need to know the skills. I can promise you that. If you don't know the skills, you'll be able to do like the bare minimum with these like AI tools, automated stuff. It's just not going to get you all the way there to everything you need to do. Whoops. It won't get you all the way there. That is my full wholehearted belief. That is not going to be a perfect system. You still need to know these skills quite well. Carlos commented again, saying, I changed my career path for about 1.5 years. No regrets. Dream job, work in USA, foreign company. Nowadays, I work as a data analyst. Any advice? If you have data analysis experience. You already have a data analyst. I've only worked with a few people who have those specifications. And actually one was from Brazil too, which is really wild. But another one was from the UK. Now they wanted to move to the US and they had some experience. Well, what did they do? I said, this was my advice and it worked out for both of them really well. I don't know if this is applicable for everyone, but those two people, here was my specific advice. I said, you're from Brazil. Find a Brazilian company in the US that works with the US and try to work with them in Brazil. And then work with them and try to transfer over to the United States. That actually worked for both of them. And that took, that was back in early 2021. So that's been like 2.5 years since that happened. But last year they made it. So it's like it took them about 1.5 years to do it. So it's not like a short-term plan. The other thing, and this is something that they want, this is someone from Africa who was wanting to work for a US company. I said, look at Accenture, look at these like consulting companies that work with United States companies. So you can get that pay, but work remote. And, you know, the conversion rates for all the currency and everything, but they were paid very well. And so they went that route, which also worked really well. But if you were trying to move to the US, I don't know how effective that is. I don't have personal experience. That's just my advice. Let's see. Monica asks, do you know / recommend any companies that hire true entry-level analysts? Like not looking for 2-3 years experience, or would it be better just to work with a recruiter? Thanks in advance. All right, I'm gonna take a step back and kind of give you just like the general landscape of how hiring works in data analysis, because it is a little tricky, I promise you. It is not straightforward. Everyone's really confused. So I'm gonna kind of like take back the curtain. This thing's actually getting in my way. It's starting to know me. I think I need to put it in front of me next time. I'm not gonna do it now, but I'm gonna put it in front of me so I can, because I'm a hand movement guy. This is limiting my hand movements. Yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm gonna just take it. I'm sitting back a little bit. All right, here we go. All right, let me give you like sorry, I just coughed on the mic. That was terrible. All right, guys. I'm gonna give you kind of a breakdown of how hiring works in like teams. If they're already an established organization, let's think Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft. These people have already a really established, well-structured organization. And when you start building that, typically they're not going to hire as many juniors, except they do have initiatives where they want to hire people right out of college to get good, fresh graduates on board at low cost, which is great. Typically, those big tech companies, that's how they do it. So they're going to hire for most roles, mid-level, senior level, or lead, technical lead managers. That's just how they do it. And then they hire on, they kind of recruit from colleges. That is most of their hiring. So most large tech companies don't hire true entry level. Or if they do have like a post for an entry level or a job listing for an entry level, they kind of already have it filled with like a college graduate or something like that. And so if you're a college graduate, that's great, because there's lots of opportunities at big tech companies in that area. So like go talk to your college, try to like do that. Entry level people a lot of times work with small to medium sized companies or Fortune 500 companies that, and let me take a step back. For example, I worked on a team where I got hired as a junior data analyst at a Fortune 10 company. Now, I already had a little bit of experience. I had 1 year of experience. Would they have hired me without that? Maybe not. This thing is falling. I'm getting annoyed at this mic already. I really should have set it up over there. Maybe not. So at these larger companies, they look for a little bit of experience. Don't have to have all the experience. At big tech companies, much more experience. Then you go down the road. Then you have startups, which startups sometimes hire entry level. And then you have small to medium sized companies that are not in the Fortune 500. It's just your typical classic like company, like that you've never heard of. It's not a big global company. It's just a company. Those are the people that hire the most entry level data analysts. So if you're looking to try to break into tech, into a big tech company with no experience, it's crazy hard. Really, really, really hard. It just is. And so my advice is don't do that. Don't try to make that your goal to be like, I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it. It's going to be really, really hard. Yes, work with the recruiters, but also go on LinkedIn and apply for these smaller jobs that are local. Especially for entry-level jobs, first job, if you can try to apply local, that'll separate you from the other 200 candidates who are all trying to work remote or want to like move here from, Canada to like New York or wherever. Try to be local. Be that local person. Hey, live right down the street. You have that connection with them. That is my advice. So I knew I threw a lot at you, but that's just how general hiring works in the data world. It really does. Most people don't talk about it. They're like, a lot of people will say, oh, you can get a job at Amazon with no experience doing these things. It's like 1 in a million. It's very rare. Your highest percentage chances are at smaller companies to start. Once you have experience, then look at those bigger companies. But even then, they're competitive. They're competitive. Excuse me. What's the difference between SQL and NoSQL? Ray Rawal asked this. It has everything to do with how it stores the data and how you work with the data. I'm not going to go into it. Just go look at my video. I have a whole video on SQL versus NoSQL. Pretty interesting. But I used NoSQL for 1 year at a previous job. I'm not going to dive too much into it. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world. Syntax is a little odd. The way the data is stored is a little odd, but it can take different types of data. So like SQL can only use structured data, rows and columns, or NoSQL can take other types of data. So, yep. Now, this is a great question, this next one. Suji Gopi. I butchered that name and I apologize, but great question. Hey, Alex, how will data analyst jobs be going in 2024? Now, for the past 3 months, it's been a big, no, not even 3 months, maybe like 4 to 5 months. It's been a kind of a downhill in hiring. I'm very happy to say like September's been a great month for hiring. I've had more people in the past, like this month. It's been the whole September. More people this month reach out and be like, hey, I landed a job. Hey, thanks for this, thanks for that. I was able to land a job. More people this month in the past like 2 months, 2.5 months. So picking just on that metric alone, which is kind of like my metric, just that alone, hiring has definitely picked up. But I'm going to go look at the actual data for hiring after the month ends and they release that data to see how it was, because September is known to be kind of a hiring month just because of how quarterly budgets and yearly budgets and all the fiscal year budgets and all these things for companies. They need certain hiring. They have certain budgets for hiring. So September is a good month for hiring. So is like January and then over the summer. But this summer was very odd in that it was not good. Just because of all the uncertainty in the world right now, the inflation that's happening in the world, wars, AI, all these things. Now, that was not the question. And I'm going to get to the question now. The question was, how will it be in 2024? I think it's going to be really positive, overall positive. I think it's going to be better than this year. This year has been a very odd year with everything that's been going on in AI, with everything that's been going on with global conflict, with inflation. Hasn't been great. Now, in 2024, my hope, and kind of just talking with other people, and I'm kind of connected to a lot of different companies, is they're looking to expand in 2024. A lot of companies are looking to expand their data teams with AI. A lot of smaller teams, startups, all these different companies, they're like, we have to grow our data teams a lot more. We need to hire on analysts, data architects, data engineers. And so I think overall it's going to be hopefully better than this year, because this year's been kind of a slump just because of all those factors. So I'm very positive that it's going to be good. I genuinely am. And if it wasn't, I would tell you. If it wasn't positive. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry, I had to block someone, so he was just spamming it. Someone said, do you have any scholarship or free coupon in your courses? Now, Anwar is referring to Analyst Builder, which is going to be launching super soon. Kassan, if you're watching this, which you may be, he is literally finishing up. He's like, we've been using this environment to build everything and test everything on the cheap so that we didn't cost a lot of money. Now we're moving everything over to our production server for Analyst Builder, which is on AWS. And we're just transferring everything over. Once that is all transferred, once everything's set up on AWS, we're done. Everything is essentially done with the website. And I'm not going to show it to you because I could, but there's things on there I don't want everyone to see yet. I have a whole video that's going to be releasing probably on Tuesday, upcoming Tuesday. If you are a beta tester, you've already gone to analystbuilder.com, you signed the waitlist, you're a beta tester, or you'll have access as a beta tester. So you'll get 30% off all of my courses, the technical question stuff. And that's just the beta. Now, scholarships, I want to do scholarships. I think I've always loved when people did that. I want to do that as well. Once we fully launch, I will be trying to do that in some capacity. Whether it's partnering with companies that work, like a nonprofit company that works with people to help them in tech, or how I'm going to do that, I'm not 100% yet. But yes, I definitely want to give out scholarships and big discounts for people who need it, because I'm pricing everything to make it affordable for everyone. I'm not going to price everything like $100 a course. That'd be insane. I would never forgive myself. So, especially in this economy. So I'm trying to keep everything really affordable. I do plan on doing scholarships and stuff in the future. Phoenix Vamp, do you think the data industry is overcrowded and no jobs in the future? One, yes, it's always been overcrowded. Even when I was getting into it 5 or 7 years ago now, 2 years ago when I was doing these live streams, I used to say 5 years ago, but now it's been 7 years, right? So 7 years ago when I was getting into it, it was still overcrowded. They were still, every job I would apply for had tens, hundreds, depends on, applicants. Then they would interview 10 people or more, and then they'd offer me the job or whoever the job. It's always been overcrowded. Ever since the tech boom back in early 2000s was a huge tech boom. But then in when data science started becoming really popular in the mid 2010s, and that took a boom, it's always been overcrowded. Let me just state that up front. But no jobs in the future, absolutely not. There is going to be, and there already is, it's already happening. It's just, we don't have all the data for it. I think in 5 years, we're going to look back, and in 5 years, you're going to be like, I'm so glad I got in 2023. Let's say at the end of the decade, at 2030, you're going to look back and be like, hiring was so much easier back in 2023. It's going to be even more overcrowded because AI, with everything that's good about it, it is going to need people. It's going to need a lot of people in a lot of companies to actually make it work. It's good, but I've already talked with a lot of companies who have hired me on, and I'm doing consulting now. And they're like, hey, here's our current data infrastructure. How can we set us up for AI? Now, luckily, because that's my job, I've been looking into all of these things. I'm like, okay, AI is really big. How does this integrate with current tech stacks and all these things? So I come in and I'm an advisor, and I'm like, okay, here's what you currently have and here's what you need. I'm like, to do that, you have this person, but you're going to need this person and this person to hire on and do this work. That's what I do. That's a part of what I do in consulting, is just advising. And then they go and do that. I can already tell you that most companies are behind on their tech stacks. So they're going to need to update, and they're going to need to upgrade their infrastructure quite a bit. They're going to need to hire on people to QA all of these things. Then they need people to come in and integrate AI and make sure that their schemas and tech stacks and everything are able to integrate with AI. It's a lot of work. It's not just plug and play. The AI has been, people on Twitter and stuff, for example, I see this all the time. They make this video and it looks really good. And I'm like, wow, that's great. But then I'm like, okay, essentially what they did is they gave some front end thing that connects to nothing on the back end. But everything on the back end, that's where all the data analyst work is. That's where the data engineering work is. That's where the data science work is. That's where the complications come in with AI, where AI is not as straightforward and easy as it looks. So no jobs? No, I think there's going to be more jobs. I think there's going to be a lot more jobs, probably in the next 2 to 3 years. So getting in now, getting some experience, and then kind of riding that wave, it's just going to be a massive wave. I'm so confident you'll see in the next like 7 years, when we hit 2030, you're going to look back and remember this podcast or this live stream and be like, oh my goodness, he was totally right about that. I just have a feeling. That's just my intuition. That's just my intuition. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of jobs. And I think hiring is going to, especially in 2024, I think it's going to pick up quite a bit. And it's picked up now in September. It's picked up quite a bit as well. Kristen Reed said, yes, your story really resonates with me as a math teacher. Makes me see the possibility of a data analyst career as a reality. Absolutely. I've actually helped some teachers become data analysts. I was doing mentoring. I mentored over 200 people over 2 years. And there was like 8 or 9 of those were teachers. And yeah, absolutely. Teaching and being able to explain things confidently, being able to talk in front of people, these are those soft skills that teachers have that really translate well to just the data world in general. It translates really well when when you are really good at interviewing, you're good at presentation skills, you're good at making eye contact and smiling, like things that teachers are good at. Those soft skills go a long way in interviewing and the data world just in general. But then they knew all the tech skills as well. So learn the tech skills. Adaisha says, hey, Alex, what are your thoughts on getting a job in the US as a foreigner? Do you recommend applying for a job first, then migrate, or the chances greater to migrate for a few months first? This is not my area of expertise, but I'll tell you what one guy did that I worked with. His name was Mohammed. Great guy. He was working for 3M, if you know the company. Mohammed did something a little bit unconventional, and I told him to go for it, and he went for it, and he did it. He was living in Canada, and he wanted to work in the United States. And he got a job in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I was born in Minnesota. And so I have a connection from up there, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So he wanted to live in the US, make more money, lower cost of living, all that good stuff. So he learned all the skills, and he was applying for jobs. And I was like, he's like, I really want to move to Minnesota. It's pretty close to the border. I can come back and forth, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, on the application, he had to say where he lived. And he's like, I don't live there yet. He's like, but I know I'm going to move there. He's like, and my friend has an address there. And so I was like, hey, listen, if you know you're going to move there, you already have a place to stay there. Once you get the job, are you going to be able to move right away? He's like, yeah, I'll be able to go right away. They would never know. I mean, listen, it's not 100% ethical, but I told him, I said, listen, you could just put that you already live there and that you have a place in the US, you have a place in Canada. It's not unheard of. So just say you live there already so that you're local and that you have a better chance. He got an interview, he got the job. The next, 2 days after accepting the job offer, he moved down there and he lived there and he got the job. From that story, take what you will, because in my opinion, already living here is going to give you a big leg up. Trying to work with companies through their visa process and all that stuff is complicated. And I have done it. A previous hire of mine, we had to work through the visa process, and I understand it better than I did before. It takes a long time to get all the paperwork signed. He was living in India, and we wanted to hire him on full time, and all the paperwork, all the waiting, it took months. It took a long time. It was not a direct, like a random interview. He was already working for us through a consulting company. I really liked him. I was like, let me hire him on full time. That takes a long time. It's not ideal. And so if you can already be here and kind of get away from that, whoops, what did I just do? Get away from that, it's better. It is better. Excuse me. I'm going to start eating a granola bar now. You may be able to hear my chewing, but you're going to have to ignore that because I'm feeling myself get a headache. And cranky Alex is not a fun Alex, you know what I mean? But while I'm taking this bite, I am going to be looking for more questions. So this is a random thing. I've never heard of this person, but I'm going to read it anyways. So John says, you seem like Andrew Leonard, former Irish cricketer and now commenter. Love you, Alex, sir. I just thought that was a funny comment. I'm going to take a bite now, and I'll look for my next question. That's delicious. Okay. If you're curious, I go to Costco and I buy these soft, let's see if that, I buy these Kirkland soft and chewy granola bars. They are very sugary. They're not great for me, but I love them. And I have a whole stash of them right underneath that table right there. just a little insight into my life. This is a good question though. It says, this is from Vaibhav Judhav. I'm currently following your boot camp. What should I do after completing it? So, genuinely, and I mean this with all sincerity, if you can go through the entire boot camp and you can learn everything in there, get those projects done and everything, you have enough skills to get a job. You just do. Now, once you get into the job, you're still going to have to do a lot of learning on the job. You just are. That's for any job, anywhere, always. Because they'll have different tools, they'll have different processes and procedures. It's just, you got to learn a lot. But if you go through the boot camp, genuinely, I wish I had that when I was first starting out. If you go through it, you have enough skills. Now, I don't go into everything crazy in depth. That's why I'm creating Analyst Builder. So I can go into these skills really in depth and like teach you all the nuances and how to use it in like a real job. So those will go more in depth. But if you do that, you're ready to start applying. You should start applying. So that's it. You create a great resume. You start trying to connect with recruiters, target some companies you want to apply for, target your area, your niche, start applying for jobs, start reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn, start sending your resume out, just applying for jobs. You can start all of that. It's a process. But that's what I would be doing. Calvin on the Coast, cool name. Excel is so underrated in data analytics. Excel and SQL are so important. Yeah, that's why earlier when he said he knew Power BI, SQL, and Excel, I'm like, that's enough. Most companies, you would be shocked. They will hire data analysts for just Excel work. There are companies that hire just Excel work because you have to think, some of these companies are 40, 50, 100 years old. They haven't moved with the times, or they had no need to move with the times. They've been using Excel, and they're like, hey, Excel's been working for the last 15 years. No need to upgrade. That was a company that I consulted with not too long ago. I'm like, guys, like you really need to upgrade. I was like, it doesn't even cost that much. I was like, just hire on this person and this person, get this tech stack. I was like, you would get all this work done that you do in a month. You could get done in like 5 days with some automation. I was like, you're really, really doing a lot of manual work here. And the way you're storing your data is abysmal. So yeah, you some companies are like that, and you can go a long way with just SQL and Excel. You really can. Have I tried DBT? Yes, I have. Will I make videos on it? Maybe in the future. Not right now. Definitely not right now. I have too many videos and too many other ideas that I think are more important. Umesh, how can AI impact this data analyst field in the future? I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'll talk about it again. Just because everyone's talking about AI all the time. I've been keeping up with AI like intensely. I follow a ton of people. I talk to a ton of people who are more involved in it than I am. I try out all the tools. Like I've been using Claude, Bard, ChatGPT. I'm really waiting on Copilot because I'm going to be using that quite a bit to test it out, get some videos out so you guys can see how it works and if I think it's useful. Currently, data analysts they are still very much needed. There is no doubt in my mind that data analysis is going to be something that AI absolutely helps with. Same with data engineering. And here's the thing. So like I follow so many people who are like experts in their areas. Data engineering is going to be impacted, I would say, almost the exact same as data analysis. So will data science in terms of technical skills, because the data science with the machine learning models, the data architecture with building these things and creating these pipelines are genuinely, I've seen exact examples of what data analysts, with what AI can do with data analysis, with data engineering and data science. It's very similar. You don't hear people saying data scientists aren't going to be needed anymore. Data engineers aren't going to be needed anymore. And I don't hear that a lot for data analysis anymore, although maybe a little bit more. The reason being is because AI can generate a lot of things, but there still has to be someone there to integrate it, work on it, do it, reason with it, understand the outputs, understand where it's making mistakes, understand the code enough to know that's not the optimal way to do things. And prompting it only gets you so far. I'll give you, this is a fun example, and it's something I actually talk about in my video in a little bit. You guys know I'm creating Analyst Builder, and it's kind of like a leak code where you can practice technical questions. We have easy, medium, hard, and very hard. The very hard questions aren't, in my opinion, are not super, super hard for real work. They're very hard for technical questions, and that's what I tell you. And you'll see it in the video when you watch it, is those questions are more fun, but you probably won't get asked that in an interview. But in real work, those technical questions, those very hard ones, are ones that I've done, that those are like easy ones to me. It gets way further than that. I tested those questions with ChatGPT, and it gets me like 70% of the way. It cannot answer the questions. Even if I prompted it for like an hour trying to get it to solve these really hard questions, and it just can't. Because it's just too technical, it's just too complex, the logic, and there's multiple layers of logic there. It just wasn't getting it. It just couldn't figure it out. And I gave it every single point of information it could possibly have needed. I prompted it like 10 times, no, do this, do that. Just can't get there. My genuine belief is that if that's how it's working with very hard questions on Analyst Builder, which are still, they're going to be really hard for you, I promise. But those are like technical questions. When you get into the actual workplace is way harder. Like I remember some of the stuff that I was building when I was like a data analyst working at Amerisource Bergen. I was doing stuff that was like way more complicated than that. And that just gives me pause to be like, I know how complicated real work can get, and ChatGPT is not even there. It's not even close to being there, but it does help with a lot of like the simpler stuff. It really does. And so I always am thinking about that. I'm like, I always bring myself back. Can it do what I used to do? And right now it's not there yet, even remotely, and especially not with the domain knowledge. Now I'm going to go on a small tangent after all that. Is how can it impact data analysis in the future? What I predict, and what I've already seen, and like I predicted this months ago, and now I'm starting to see it a lot on Twitter, is that companies, especially like Amazon, AWS, with AWS, Microsoft, are going to be creating niche or very pinpointed models for different areas. For example, healthcare or finance. They're going to create LLMs, or they're going to create these AI bots specifically trained on just that data, like really in depth, insanely knowledgeable in those areas. Those are going to help a lot more with that gap of domain knowledge. But again, that is going to take quite a while. And okay, let me take an even further step back. 'Cause now I'm just going on a tangent. I'm going. I took one bite of this granola bar and I'm back, baby. You have to think about how technology progresses in companies. I've only seen one company that I've worked with, and I've worked with probably 50 in the past couple months, that has even tried to integrate AI into their workflow because it's very complex, very complicated. That's not my wife. No need to worry, because it's very complicated. And they have not yet seen if it's going to be accurate, if it's going to be ethical, if it's going to be something that compromises their data, or if it's even going to work. So this fear that people are having right now is something that is going to continue for like 15 years. It's going to take companies years and years and years and years and years and years to catch up to this, especially companies that haven't been building their infrastructure, which is probably like 50% of them have not been keeping up with data infrastructure for the past 10, 15 years. So they have a lot to catch up on. What all this causes, in my opinion, is a huge influx of FOMO, which is fear of missing out on AI. All these companies are going to need to hire a lot of data engineers and data analysts, QA analysts, technical people to make sure these systems are working right, to test them ad nauseum, and build out their data teams to then maintain those systems that they're going to be betting their entire companies on in the future. So it's just going to explode the data space. And that's why I said in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see a huge uptick in hiring. That's kind of my estimate for a lot of companies to start being like, oh, these products in AI are coming out and they're actually useful. We can't verify it yet with Copilot and all these other things. We can't verify how useful they're going to be integrated into the systems yet. And so in 2 to 3 years, once they're tested, once we started using them, once I make YouTube videos on them and everybody trusts it, then people will start being like, okay, let's take a break. Let's revisit our plan for the next few years. Where do we want to be in the next few years with AI? How are we going to get there? We need to hire on people who know what they're doing, or to test these things, and build out these things. And it's a lot of work. It is so much work. It's not plug and play, and it won't be. For very few companies, it'll be plug and play. Maybe big tech companies who've been really keeping up, like Uber. Uber could probably go into one department, integrate AI, and because their tech stacks are really developed, it'll be ready. That's like a big tech company. That's not going to happen with your mom and pop shop. Even most Fortune 500 companies still run on Excel. So just trust me when I say, I hope you can trust me. And this is what I firmly, firmly believe, that our field will change a little bit over time. And I'll try to keep you guys as updated as I can. Our field is going to change over time to incorporate more AI tools, but they're tools. They still are going to need you. And you need to know the skill better than AI. I promise you. And I, right now, on a SQL level, can honestly say that I can do better than any ChatGPT, anything that I've seen so far. I have to go in and fix things. And I'm like, that's not the best way to do it. I know it's not. Like, I know it because I know it. I've just been doing it. So I'm like, ChatGPT, that's not the best way to do it. Do it this way. And then they're like, oh, you're correct. Let me fix that. And then they don't do it exactly correct again. I'm like, no, you have to do it this way because of this. Then they try to do it. It doesn't work. All that being said, and I'm going on a huge tangent about AI right now, is that my genuine belief is that there's going to be a big boom in the next 2 to 3 years, and learning these skills now, becoming really good at them, trying to land a job, it will help you ride that wave with AI. Now, I'm going to give you one last example. It's like buying and selling a home. Okay, you buy and sell a home back in 2020, or you buy a home in 2020. You're going to ride the wave of buying and selling homes, right? So in 2023, home prices are crazy. But if you bought a home back in 2020, you can sell your home and buy another one because you've made a lot of profit. Then you have that home, and then in 5 years, when the prices are probably even a lot more than that, you can buy, sell a home. You've ridden that wave. If you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, now you're trying to buy a home that's like $600,000 that used to be worth $300,000. It's just a symbol. You have to catch it while it's going instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. Just a random analogy. Ahmed, what do you say about data camp career? I'm guessing career data analytics. I took some of it and it's pretty good. And I do like data camp. But I didn't use them a ton personally. Like I took like 1 or 2 courses. I always used Udemy because it was a little bit cheaper. So take with that what you will. I'm taking another bite. Let's find another question. That's a good one. Srik Rishnan. Hey, Alex, I have a question for you. If I learn some basic knowledge on ETL and SSIS, will it be good for business intelligence as a fresher? Yes. Yes, you can. But there's also a lot of other tools for, SSIS stands for, give me a second. Maybe I need to Google it. I forgot what it stood for. It's like statistical software. Let's see. Server integration services. So that's ETL. So I used SSIS. I always forget. There's another one like SSRS, which is something statistical. I can't remember. All these, there's too many acronyms in my life. Don't hold me to any of this. SSIS is really good. I used it for some automation stuff or building ETL pipelines back in the day. For business intelligence, like a BI, I would actually look not as a BI analyst, BI developer. Business intelligence developer is going to work more with ETL and SSIS. But yes, you can. You can. That's a good one. Yeah, there's a bunch out there now that do that. And there's just for like, there's a bunch. I'm thinking of too many off the top of my head that I'm like, I don't even want to go down that path. There's a lot that you can look at these days for ETL processing. And there's so many companies that do it now that a lot of them that I work with. Let's see. Oh, it skipped down. I just skipped a bunch of questions. Sorry, guys. Matthew said he has to leave. He asked very politely. He said, please behave. And I agree. Don't make me do anything else. If you guys didn't know, Matthew is, he's a moderator on the channel. Love the guy. He moderates, so like he comes in and he makes sure people don't spam things and he gets rid of them. And so I always appreciate when he's here. So thank you, Matthew. You may not see this, but thank you. Alex Analytics, which is a great name. That's what my company is. It's Alex Analytics LLC. It says, can I please intern with you? I believe it will change my life. As of right now, I'm not taking on any employees. It's just me with the company. In the future, I want to expand my company because I turn down a lot of work. Here's the issue with this though, and this is what a lot of people maybe don't understand or get mad at me about. I turn down a ton of work, right? And I probably 99% of what gets sent to me in email saying, hey, Alex, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? I say no, because I don't have the time or I don't want to do it. And then people are like, well, hire on an intern or hire on somebody and they can do that work. They can make money and then you can, make money as well. The issue with that, the biggest issue with that is they want me. That's one of the biggest issues. They want Alex the Analyst because they know my domain knowledge, they know what I know, and they like my personality and they hire me for that. The second thing is quality of work. If I hire somebody on and they do a bad job or they do not live up to the expectations, I am responsible for that. And so if I hire on an intern, if I hire on another employee, and they don't do as good a job as I would have wanted, that's on me. That's my fault. I hired that person. That's on me. It just is. And so that's a lot of responsibility. And I just have, right now, I have too much on my plate. I do YouTube. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I have my analytics consulting business. I have Analyst Builder that I've been building for the last year, which is going to launch like next week or the week after. Literally that's almost done. So I have too much on my plate. I can't manage one person, right? Even one person. I just can't. I unfortunately can't. So those are the reasons why, no, I'm not taking on an intern right now. I'm not hiring people for Alex Analytics. Even though I have a surplus of work, I don't have time to do that. So I'm sorry. That's my overarching response to anyone who asked that question. The housing market is broken. Yes, it definitely is. The housing market is broken for sure. I mean, I have some friends who are on like the law side of real estate, and they're saying there could be a big crash. I don't know. I don't know enough about real estate, if I'm being honest. Let's see. Sai Chapidi said, hi, Alex. It seems like the data analyst job market is really tough right now in the US. What do you think of other data-related roles, such as data engineering? I actually think if you're starting from scratch, let's say you're starting from scratch from both data analyst and data engineering, I think it's far more difficult to get a data engineering job than a data analyst job. Like 100% harder. I think it is much more difficult. Data engineering is really complex. You have to know a lot more tools, a lot more in depth. It's a lot more technical. And most companies are not going to hire you on if you just know the basics. They need someone who can come in because data engineers are expensive, more expensive than data analysts. They need someone who can come in and start building and start completing tasks because they have very specific things. Data analysis can be a little bit different because data analysis, whatever tool you're using, can be somewhat transferable. If you're using, Power BI, you might know Tableau. If you're using this skill, you should be able to pick up this skill pretty quick, or it's easier to train on a little bit. They're needing someone who can be client facing, who can interact with the clients and get requirements and then translate that to business impact and then build the dashboard. Whereas data engineers, more than not, aren't interacting with people as much. They're doing a lot more technical work. And so I actually think it's a lot more difficult to get a data engineer job right now than it is a data analyst job. It's just as saturated as data analysis, but data analysis has a little bit different. It's just a different way that you work within the business. Let me see. Thrill Akshimi Chidi said, "Hi, Alex. I'm a seasoned healthcare professional. I'm now transitioning to data analytics and AI in healthcare. A lot of healthcare companies still use SaaS, a lot. Will that change in the next few years? If they're using SaaS, let me just say, I just went to a SaaS conference and learned a lot about SaaS. But here's one thing about just like companies in general. If they've been using it, they're gonna keep using it. If it's working, it's working. And SaaS is still, they're still upgrading and they're still keeping pretty present. So most likely, no, they're not. And healthcare is like, the SaaS is really integrated with a lot of healthcare companies, I'm finding. And so probably not. It just probably isn't. SaaS will probably be very relevant in healthcare for a long time to come. Yeah. SQL integration services. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I didn't see it, but thank you. I see it now. Oh, geez, it skipped to the bottom again, guys. Why company not hire freshers? Companies do. Companies do hire people with zero experience, but most people look at big tech companies when they look at that, and which is true. They don't hire a lot of freshers or entry-level people because they're a big tech company. They can choose whoever they want. So if they want to choose someone who has 2-3 years experience and pay them at a lower rate, people are willing to do that. Now, there are HR rules and regulations on, and they have like tiers for hiring. But in general, they want people who are experienced, who know what they're doing, who aren't going to break anything, and are going to come in and make a business impact pretty immediately. So that's why they don't hire a lot of people. But if they do hire freshers or right out of college or entry-level people, it's because they can get them for cheaper. They can get them from good schools. That's usually why they do it. Now, the ones that do get hired on as entry level or freshers are people who typically who are looking at smaller to medium sized companies who know technical skills but also know some of that domain. So they did an internship at a healthcare company. Now they work for a healthcare analytics company. Or that's kind of similar to what happened to me. I had some healthcare background. I transferred in to work in healthcare analytics. And so, everybody has a different path. But yeah, freshers are still being hired for sure. And there's a lot of people that message me and say that exact same thing. They're like, hey, I just am out of college. I was able to land a job. Really appreciate your YouTube channel, something like that, something along those lines. And so I see it all the time. So yeah, people are still definitely getting hired. Any programs for Apple to follow your boot camp? Yes. Mac does not play well with Microsoft SQL Server or Power BI or Excel for some small things. You can get a Microsoft laptop, HP laptop, or you can work through Docker on Mac, or you can work through something like a virtual machine that has a Microsoft where you can use it. So those are options. And I have people reach out to me saying they used Docker and it worked well. But there is MySQL as well. There's other tools besides Power BI like Tableau. So all that being said, is VBA and macros required for data analyst? No, I still don't use them that much. I like them. If there are use cases for them, I'll use them. But no, I don't use them a ton. But some companies do. So if you know them, great. If not, that's no big deal. It's me. So with a lot of sad emoji faces, so I have to do this one. Hi, Alex. Can you show some of your works done in companies so it will give us a clear view on it? I think so, please. My answer is no, I can't because I signed contracts and non-disclosure agreements. And so I can't share anything from any company. I can give you high-level information about what I do with these companies because I've been branching out from just working as a company man, as a manager or a data analyst at a company to running my own consulting business, which is very different, very, very different than a typical 9-to-5 job. Now I get to pick and choose who I work with, the jobs I take on, the clients I work with, and they vary. So sometimes they hire me on, they're like, hey, Alex, you know the data analyst market, you know what they like, what they don't like, come in and help us with marketing. So then I come in with product fit. Who should you be targeting for your product? Oh, you were trying to target, data analysts? I'm like, no, that's not that. You want to target managers of here, or do you want to do director level or C level? So I help them understand that and help, use my experience with that. Another part is I actually come in and do data analysis work. So they're like, hey, Alex, we're really having trouble with automating this data pipeline. And it's in Microsoft SQL Server and we can't get this to work. And I come in and actually just solve the issue. They're just having a one-off issue or a larger issue. And I'm like, well, let me come in and see what I can do. And then I charge for that. Or they come in and they're like, hey, you know how to use Azure really well. How would you integrate? How can we move from on-prem servers to the cloud? That is literally something that I just did with my last company. I took us from all on-prem, or we had like one thing in the cloud, to completely on the cloud and no on-prem. On-prem is just like you have your own servers at your company versus in the cloud where you're storing everything in the cloud, which has its ups and downs. And so I can walk through that with them, help them actually migrate their data and tell them who to hire, how to do it, all stuff I have experience with. And then I do like some brand deals or public speaking, and that's totally different, but that is something that I offer and I do. So those are some of the things I do, but I can't disclose actually the work that I've worked on or the I probably could do the companies, but just to be safe, I'm not going to, because I'm not 100% sure about that. All right, I'm looking at questions. This is a good one. This is for people working on resumes. It says, this is from Rahul Kajanchi. I didn't say that right. Hey, Alex, if we include our portfolio link in the resume, wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make same as adding project names in the resume? Okay, so I have a whole video on how to make a resume, and I talk about that, so go check that out. But here's what I will say. Some people aren't going to click on your portfolio website link, or they just don't want to. They don't care about it. Some won't. I think if you're doing really cool projects, or if you're working on personal projects, you should add them. You just say the name of the project, you have when you did it, you say the tools that you used to build it, and then what you did and the outcome of that project. Here was the outcome of this. And it's just like a 2-liner, really short, really simple and to the point. You can get the free resume template on that video. The reason for that, and then you can even hyperlink that, like your title of it. You highlight over it, you copy from your portfolio that link. So if they want to, they can click on that project. So like, oh, that's an interesting project. Let me see how they did that. They click on the name of the project. It brings them to your portfolio website. So you can have it more than one. That's what I would do. And that's what I recommend everybody do. The reason for it is because sometimes these projects really catch your eye. There have been times where I've looked at a project and I'm like, that's really interesting. What time is it? 11 o'clock. Okay, I can tell I'm still doing pretty good. So I'm like, that's a really interesting project. It's not like your run-of-the-mill kind of just generic project. This is like one that they did like personally with some personal data. Or for like, excuse me, some niche. I'm gonna chew real quick. I need this. Can you hear that? I'm sorry, I just wanted to do that. All the people who hate chewing, they're gonna be really mad at me. Actually, chewing doesn't really bother me that much. I know it does bother some people. That's my answer to that. Scrolling through questions. Very interesting. This is an interesting question. Meg. Hi, Alex. I'm a career librarian who recently accidentally fell into legal tech. Any advice on which programs I can focus on to boost my skills for this industry? I know nothing about legal tech or legal analysis or anything like that. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers, but legal tech, I don't know anything about. If you can in the chat, just put what skills that they're currently using at your place, and then if I recognize any of them or I've used any of them, I'll tell you where you can learn it. Reading questions now. I'm trying to find more. There's a lot. Oh, this is a good question. Data Dork, sweet name. Are there any new exciting skills recruiters / hiring managers are focusing on or looking for? Very good question. There haven't been any like emerging that are like crazy need to have. Even AI on a resume is like ChatGPT AI, which I think if you have been using it and you've been integrating it with your workflow, put it on your resume. It's good. Because some companies might be like, oh, we don't use AI, but this guy knows AI, so we should hire him. All that being said, it's still the basics. One thing and one thing alone has been popping up more and more. All the basics are still there. SQL, Excel, Python, Tableau, Power BI, all these things. One thing and one thing alone has been coming up more than normal, and that's cloud. Not just Azure, AWS. Now they're looking at more specific tools like Databricks, Starburst, all these like kind of smaller tools. They're starting to put these on resume applications, and people are being asked about them more. I hate to say I called this, but I said this back in 2022 when I did my How to Become a Data Analyst in 2022 video and my video on How to Become a Data Analyst in 2023. I reiterate it with even more emphasis, and you can go back and watch it because it's there. The records show is that I said knowing a cloud platform like Azure and AWS is going to become more of a standard, especially in 5 to 10 years. They're just going to expect that you know it because nobody's going to be using actually, that's not true. There are some companies that want on-prem for security reasons and other reasons, but the majority of companies are moving to cloud, and they want people who already know how to use the cloud, how it works, all these things. Even if you don't know Azure super well, you've used AWS, or you use this, or you use that, or you use Google Cloud Platform for people who actually use that. Whatever it is, I have seen that increase dramatically. And the people who have even told me, but not just that, just in if you look at more jobs, you'll notice that a lot of them have cloud platforms on there now. Oh, we use Google Cloud Platform. Someone who knows that would be great. Someone who knows Azure, etc. So that is the one skill that in the past year has become much, much higher. They're focusing on and asking about more. Let me keep going. All right, guys, we got about, let's say 10 more minutes, and then we shall wrap it up for this month's live stream. I'm still getting through questions. I see a lot of questions in here. Victor, so this is just interesting. I'm going to kind of walk through this in my head. He said, Alex, I built 2 Excel projects, 2 SQL projects. I put them on LinkedIn for 1 month, no offer, even for internship. Well, were you applying? Were you reaching out to recruiters? Did you make a great resume and use my resume template? I need more information, Victor. I need more information because you can put things anywhere and people aren't going to reach out to you. You got to put in the hard work, my friend. So tell me more, Victor. I'll be reading about how you've been applying in your resume and all these things. And you also said, wait, where was it? It's only been a month. And I say this in the kindest way. 1 month is like not that long. It took me like 6 months to get my first data analyst job. And I'm not saying that from like, well, I spent 6 months. I see people, it takes them a year. That's a long time. Some people it takes 3 months. I don't know of anybody no, that's not true. I actually do know a few people who've done it in like a month after starting to apply, but that's really early. It takes months. You got to put in the extra effort. Unless you did already, which then tell me in the comments below and I'll read it. In a Streamlit web app, It is way more involved than Tableau. Tobias, yes, Streamlit is not. Streamlit, you're like coding it. And I built Streamlit apps before. They're really fun. I really like building them. They're really, it's really neat. You should go check out Streamlit if you haven't. Again, another tool. There's hundreds of tools. You would not believe. Usually when I see a job, like any job on the market for data analysis, it's like SQL, Excel, and then you'll see 3 or 4 other tools that you've never heard of or you've never used before for any job. And there's literally tens of thousands of tools out there. And so Streamlit's another tool. Really cool tool as well. Let's see. I can't seem to bring myself to stay focused. And aptly his name is lost, or their name is lost. I can't seem to bring myself to stay focused. It can be hard to focus. Not only just due to like maybe you have ADD or ADHD or something like that, it's hard to focus. It can also be environmental things. You have a family to take care of. You have dogs running through the house, kids running through the house. You have a job that calls you all the time, so it's hard to stay focused. But for me, what I used to do, and this worked really well, is I had all those things. I had kids, a job, dogs. I personally I waited till everyone went to sleep. I sacrificed a little bit of sleep, maybe 2 to 3 hours a night. Ish. And I just use that to stay focused. I would turn, and I actually had a whole podcast on how I had to do this because I realized that I got really distracted easily. I would put on Netflix in the background. I get distracted all the time by it. I used to go on YouTube and all these things. I had to cut everything out. I literally logged off of Netflix so that I couldn't log in. I stopped watching YouTube. I don't remember what I did for that. I don't know if I blocked it or what I did, but I had to remove those distractions so I could focus on the stuff that I knew would pay off in the end. So, there's lots of tools and ideas on how to do that. You just got to find something that works for you. That's what worked for me. All right. I'm looking. Anima Goyal says, how to cover a career gap in interviews, have 2 years of gap. I'm a COVID batch student, didn't get placed from CLG. I don't know if that means college. Please suggest anything. Worked in another domain for a year, now applying data analysis again. I don't know about all these placements and stuff. That doesn't really happen where I'm from. But I guess my biggest advice is you got to start that train again, right? When you're in college and you're learning and you're in it, and then you start trying to get jobs after college, you're like in this rhythm, this system, and you're like, you have people to help you and you're like going, there's a flow to it. And then you land a job. When you get out of that for like 2 years and you have to like, geez, I got to start applying again. You have to like start that train up again. You have to start reaching out to recruiters again. You have to start connecting with people again. You have to start, it's tough. You have to start the engine again. That's my only advice. I don't really know too much about that, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but it's kind of my general advice. Edu Mail said, I work with Amazon as an investigation specialist, and I work with a lot of data. I have enterprise expertise in SQL, ETL, and Excel. Can you suggest me if I should stay in Amazon or move to some other company? If you already work at Amazon and they can hire you internally, do that. I've worked with a lot of people who were already working at a company they liked. They just wanted to work in a different department. You have to make it known. You have to talk to HR, talk to your manager and be like, hey, listen, I really like working here, but I've been learning these skills. I really have a passion for it. I would love in the future, maybe like a year or two, to transition into this type of career. How can you help me get there? I've had people who were on my team do that. It happens. So that's what I would recommend. But you also have Amazon on your resume, which looks good. So you can use that to your advantage to work at another company if that's the way you want to do it. And you can probably get a pay bump as well. But it's up to you. Oop, skip down. Rick and Morty, do you play any computer games? Not anymore. When I was in college, I was on a League of Legends gaming team, so we would play against other schools. I was on my school's team, and we would play. All the schools in our area would come, and we'd do some big LAN tournament, and we were pretty good. I mean, I played League of Legends. I played a little bit of Dota, but yeah, I haven't in the past like 7 years. Sad. I used to love gaming, but then I got a family, I got kids, I got a job. And I do YouTube, and YouTube is like my gaming, man. I get a high off of doing YouTube stuff, man. I get fueled by it. It's crazy. Let's see. What's the difference between a business analyst and a data analyst? I just released a video on that. Go watch it. No, I did not play CS:GO. I played a lot of Halo though. In fact, when Halo 3 came out, me and 3 of my friends were of the first 100 people in the world to complete Legendary on their campaign on co-op. We were one of the first. And boy, was that difficult. Growing sports analytics world, it's growing. It genuinely is. The thing is that sports is really niche. Sports is a really small niche, right? Let's think just NFL. You want to be an NFL sports analyst that looks at the data? Every team might have, what, 1, 2? It's like 100 and there's only like, what, 50 teams, 60 teams in the NFL? That's not a lot. Maybe college football will have a little bit more, but I mean, well, they definitely will have more. But goodness gracious, it's a small niche. It's hard to get into and stay into. Then you have different sports. You have golf and cricket and all these other sports. Soccer, of course. So, is Hadoop useful in data analysis? That would not be a skill that I would personally be learning. No. I mean, I've worked with Hadoop, but it's not like I'm like, whoa, you need to go out there and learn some Hadoop. That is a really in-demand skill. No, not for data analysis. Who's talking about Halo? Halo doesn't get enough flowers? I don't know what that means. Maybe that's an inside joke that I should know. Let's see. I'm just, how many minutes? We got like 1 minute left. I'll answer like 1 or 2 more questions and then it'll be good to go. I'm just looking for more questions. A lot of the questions that I'm seeing are like ones that I've kind of answered already. Okay. This is from Camille Washington. Hey, Alex, I work for a company who's building an analytics team and don't plan on moving me into a data analyst role for at least a year. Should I hold out to hope? If you like the company, here's what I would do. It does not hurt to apply to other companies because in a year they may have it, in a year they may not. That's not a sure thing. Now, if it was 100% a sure thing, I would still be applying because maybe you find something better out there. Or you can say you have a counteroffer. You can say, hey, I have an offer at my current company to become a data analyst, but I'm looking to move external for XYZ reason. More money, better vacation, it doesn't matter. That would be my advice is even when I was happy in my current company, I still was applying after about a year just because I was like, hey, listen, you don't know what's going to happen. That is my advice. Let me see if there's any more. All right, this is my last question of the day. Ryan, you lucky dog, you. Ryan Dirajalal, I don't know how to pronounce that, I apologize. About to start my first day as a data analyst on Monday. Congratulations. Do you have any tips to avoid feeling imposter syndrome? I'm afraid I'll get started and not know what to do on the job. Let me tell you, my friend, everybody gets imposter syndrome about everything. It just 100% happens. Imposter syndrome is that feeling like everyone knows more than you, that you're not as good as everyone else, and you feel like I'm the only one who shouldn't be here. Everyone else knows what they're doing. That's in general what imposter syndrome is. Now, I had imposter syndrome quite a bit as well. So just know that, one, it's normal, okay? Two, how do you actually get over imposter syndrome? My biggest advice, and you have to take this with a grain of salt because everybody's different, is that when I got into a company or a new position or whatever, is I would try to learn as fast as I could and then take on projects. Once I started feeling like I was contributing to the team, my imposter syndrome went away. I was like, hey, I'm getting projects done. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm going to do it faster in the future. Like, I'm contributing now. Those first several weeks, you're just there to learn for the most part. You're there to understand their databases, understand their data, understand their clientele, understand your part of the team, what you're hired to do. You're just learning. And so you feel like you're doing nothing while everyone else is doing something. Well, those people started one day and they didn't know what they were doing either, but they've been there for a while now. So just know that everyone's been in your shoes. Ask a lot of questions because there is an expectation that since you're new, you don't know anything. So don't be afraid to ask questions to look intelligent. The worst thing you can do is act like you know everything. And then people are like, hey, do you have any questions? You're like, no, I got it. But then you actually don't know anything. And then you can't get your work done. And then you look really stupid. I've seen it. It looks really dumb. But if you're just like, yeah, I don't understand how we're getting this to there. What process are we doing? Or are we just ingesting the data that way? Ask questions. It makes you look smarter. It's like opposite of what you think. Because once you start asking good questions, people are like, oh, that's a good question. Well, here's how it actually works. And you learn. So that's my biggest advice. Learn. Then start producing output. Start picking up projects. Start getting work done. That imposter syndrome will go away. All right, guys. That is it for this month's live stream. Thank you guys so much for coming. We had like 270 people concurrently, probably a couple thousand people filter in and out. Really appreciate it. I love when you guys come to these things and just ask questions and we hang out and we chat. You guys listen to me eat granola bars. It's a good time. It's a really good time. So if you have any other questions, shoot me a message and shoot me an email or a LinkedIn message. My email is like, I had gotten down to like 200 emails. It's back up to like 500 again. So I'm really backlogged on emails. LinkedIn is probably the better way to get to me, or maybe Instagram, like the social medias. So if you have like a question that you really need answered, I can try to answer it, but no guarantees. I get way too many messages, which I love, but I just can't answer them all. It's impossible. That's why I do this, right? All that being said, really enjoyed this one. There's lots of good questions. I went on a few tangents. What can I say? Went on a few tangents about AI. Definitely has a special place in my heart. I'll be talking about it more, doing more stuff on it in the future, especially when Copilot comes out. But ChatGPT, I wasn't really impressed with code interpreter as much as I thought I was going to be, so I didn't even make a video on it. It was kind of lackluster in my opinion. And, and it's really limited, and don't get me talking on this stuff, okay, guys? You got to stop it. All that being said is I'll do more stuff on AI in the future when the time presents itself. If I'm not making a video on it, I don't know what to say. Like code interpreter wasn't a big thing for me. All that being said, as I appreciate you guys, I'm going to click the stop streaming button in just a second, but I appreciate you guys coming. I really do. Have a good day. It's Thursday. Skip Friday. Don't go to work on Friday. You don't need it. Tell them I told you didn't have to. Don't sue me if you get fired. And then have a good weekend. Have a great weekend, guys. All right. I'm stopping the stream. I love you guys. I care about you. Shoot me a message if you need to, and I'll try to help you out. Sign up for Analyst Builder, the waitlist, analystbuilder.com. Anything else? I'm going to finish my granola bar and some water. I need to rest this head of mine. Didn't eat enough.